Where were you when Orlando Arcia saved the Phillies season? In the middle of the Braves vs. Phillies series, these stare downs have not stopped, dating back from last postseason, with Arcia getting his lick back, looking Bryce Harper right in the eyes after hitting a home run. I want to talk about why this may be the necessary fire that this team needs, as well as everything else that is being said within the walls of the locker room with this Phillies team, and why I do think that this was the spark that this team needed. We've seen so much lifeless baseball over the past few weeks that they needed something to wake them up, and if Bryce Harper is going to react to anything, it is a little bit of trash talk, particularly from a guy that he has had words with before. So I'm going to dive into all of that, but before I get fully to it, I do want to remind you guys to make sure you're smashing that subscribe button. That at this point in time, 91.3% of you guys have not subscribed to the channel just yet. We want to get those numbers up. We're almost at that 1,000 mark, so need your guys' help getting there. Appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning in. Now, to set the full scene here, we remember a little bit of the backstory that dating back to last year's playoffs in Game 2 between the Braves and Phillies, that Bryce Harper ended up being the final out in a game in a pretty bad double play. An unfortunate situation where he basically overran second and then was too late getting back to it. That led to Orlando Arcia having some joking words in the locker room with an attaboy Harper saying that. Now, it's he said, she said for whether this was supposed to be public, whether this was supposed to be something kept within the walls of the locker room, which Arcia has been very open now. But the bottom line is Bryce Harper stepped out there in Game 3 with a purpose, and that resulted in him hitting not one but two home runs and letting Arcia hear directly about it in what is still one of my favorite pictures of all time. Now, flash forward to today. We understand the situation between these two teams. The Phillies still with a comfortable lead in the division, but that did not stop Orlando Arcia from having his words here. So he hits a home run himself, Arcia, and then takes his little path around the base path and gives Harper the direct stare. It was one that he looked at him coming up the first baseline, rounded first, was complete staring it down. There were no ifs, ands, or buts about it, that it absolutely happened. And even with Arcia doing his best to downplay things after the game, it's very clear that it happened. Now, as far as the Phillies as a whole, we did not see this Bryce Harper response just yet, and in fact, I'm hoping for more of that today. But the bottom line is the Phillies won that game. Have some shame, Orlando Arcia, that Bryce Harper was doing this in the MLB playoffs in a high-stakes game. You are doing this in a random game in August with your team now down 7 games in the divisional lead in the NL East there. And if we want to see what he was actually staring at, it might have been the divisions as a whole here. Looking back at it and to set it up here at the exact standings, might have been looking back at these standings to see what he was actually trying to talk trash to, because there's still a long ways to go. Now, to be a little bit more respectful of Arcia, I'm not going to say that he is a bench player talking like a star. He's a bit better than that, a competent baseball player for sure, but there are levels to this, and Bryce Harper is one above. And as I mentioned here, Bryce needs something to wake him up. That we've seen him play such horrible at bats, had such a lifeless approach to the sport of baseball in recent weeks, that there needs to be something to wake it up, and it just has to be this. If it is not a guy directly talking trash to his face, then I don't know who Bryce Harper is anymore. And I do hope that that is the spark here as far as what he said specifically following the game. Did want to dive into this quote here, in which he said specifically the Bryce Harper quote, saying that, quote, "No, I didn't care. I don't care. I couldn't care less. I already did it," which is pretty, standing on business, cool quote there, because he did do it on a bigger stage and executed at the level. That Bryce Harper was the trendsetter here. Now, another quote flying around from Rob Thomson, who was asked about it after the game. And man, I just can't quit on Topper, because he was asked and he said, quote, "I heard about that. That's gamesmanship. We won. We won the game." And I do love that approach there. This is one of those situations where, like, it reminded me why that's the right guy to be in charge. That he just did have the perfect response to that, and I liked how he handled the whole entire interaction there. But the bottom line is still not excusing what is going down on the field with this Phillies team. There are still fixes that need to be done, both with Rob Thomson, particularly with Bryce Harper, who needs to return to this level of play, or he is hitting at a high level that we have not seen from him on the season as a whole. But if there's anything that could have wake him up, it is that type of stare down. So hopefully, as the series continues on, maybe we get another one of these Bryce Harper type moments where he gets the last laugh between the two of them. Would be kind of funny to me if this does evolve into a little bit more of an ongoing thing between the two here. But the reality is, it just has to be better baseball, and that's still top to bottom. Yes, they did get the win last night. That was a big one for this Phillies team. They needed to find a way, but it was not this seamless approach. Even the little things, like in the 9th inning, where Estevez is putting on 2 batters and walking the first guy. Stuff like that really should not happen. This team did not make it easy. But the bottom line is a win is a win, and they did get that. That was a big victory for this Phillies team yesterday. One that I think from just a mentality standpoint, as much as in the standings, is extremely important. This team still has a far way to go to reaching their peak, what we've seen already from them in the season and certainly in past years. But I am really hopeful that this is the spark. This is a little bit of the match that lights the fire within this Phillies team, because it simply has to be something. We've seen a lot. Rob Thomson, to his credit, we're seeing a couple bit of sparks with the Weston Wilson impact, who sounds like he's going to have a more significant impact moving forward. A guy that has certainly played himself into a role on this Phillies team. We have seen little things like releasing Whit Merrifield, who ultimately had his moments in game one against the Phillies, but was able to get a couple key outs in that final game. So thankful to Whit for that, for returning the favor after some really horrible stretches here in Philadelphia. Don't have hate in my heart for Whit Merrifield. Still a guy that I like, and I still agree with the concept of signing him, but it just straight up did not work out, and he did not play good enough. And frankly, what Weston Wilson is giving this Phillies team is far more impactful than anything they got from Merrifield at any point while he was wearing a Phillies uniform. So best wishes there, but ultimately, this Phillies team is locked in, ready to get better, and needing to take down teams like the Braves and everyone in front of them. So one more time, a quick shout out to Orlando Arcia for officially giving the stare down here. Love that there is this kind of gamesmanship in the sport of baseball, and for one that is such a marathon, more of a gentlemanly game, I do like that there's a little bit more of the personalities coming out. I think this Phillies team has been at the forefront of pushing that. There's obviously other stars across the league, the Ellie De La Cruzes and guys like that, who are letting their personality a little bit more out there, but I think this is good for the sport as a whole, and I think this Phillies team specifically, that is something that is going to push them in a way that I don't think all teams would react to. So hopefully this wakes the team up. That beyond just the poor plate approaches, the subpar pitching, the questionable decisions from Rob Thomson, which are all things you can harp on with this team, I need to see the energy back. I need to see the vibes back. That I understand at times that can be overstated, but it does not feel like there's this same bite within this Phillies team. And I do think this could be the missing piece to waking them up and giving them an opportunity to get hungry again. While it was great to see this massive divisional lead that they did ultimately build up to here, the reality is I do think it came with a little bit of contentness within this Phillies team, and that comfortability can be a dangerous game in the long haul. So hopefully that is over. Hopefully now that they're zeroed in as the final countdown until that playoff push is here, this team cannot afford to take their foot off the gas or really just sit in the neutral position that they've currently been kind of lingering in for the past few weeks, and really dating back to right before the All-Star break. So while we've seen what this team is capable of, I need to see that type of hunger, that type of passion, and the type of just high-level baseball that we haven't in months to this point. It's been bleak after the All-Star game, and hopefully this is finally the thing that helps this team to turn its corner. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you like the back and forth between Bryce Harper and Orlando Arcia there? Do you like how Bryce Harper is handling things kind of, I guess, a little more professional than I honestly expected with it? But ultimately, we will see what happens in Game 3 of the series. If there are more words there, if Bryce Harper is able to bomb a couple homers and have a stare down of his own, we will see how it all shakes down. But regardless, I'll be here every step of the way. And one more time, I want to remind you guys to make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Once again, just 8.7% of you guys tuning in the videos have subscribed so far. We want to get this Phillies Digest family growing as large as possible. Get to that 1,000 subscribers number before the playoffs start. So help me get to that. Make sure you're dropping a like below, dropping your comments, and I'll be talking with you next time right here on Phillies Digest. Peace.